Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video we're going to be going over Red Purple Uta, which came out in OP06. However, there have been some adjustments and some additions to the deck that I think make it worth playing in OP09. Before we go over the deck list, please make sure to drop a like and a sub if you haven't already. It helps out so much. Thank you all for the support. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, please make sure to join the Discord. The link for that is in the description below. Now, recently I put out a Red Purple Kid video, and it got me wondering what other leaders in that color could I play that might be viable, because there are some new additions in purple and red that make those colors not necessarily overtuned, but a lot stronger in general. And Red Purple Uta has been one that was on my radar from the beginning. Now, when I put out my tier list video at the beginning of OP09, I thought Uta was going to be one that could be a very strong contender, and I think over time it's gotten even stronger. Of course, when it first came out, I didn't feel like it was a very strong leader. There was definitely some people that thought it was a good leader overall, but I think the fact that the leader ability, you have to trash a film type card from your hand in order to ramp, doesn't necessarily feel great overall, especially when you're not able to recur that hand size. However, there are some cards that have been added over time to really help with that. So without further ado, let's go over the deck list and kind of see where I've landed for this leader right now. Starting off, we have 4 of the 10 cost KO Shanks. On play, KO up 20 of your opponent's characters with 10,000 power or less. With Uta's ability being able to minus 2,000 whenever you do trash a film card from hand, this actually can KO anything in the game other than Gold D. Roger. So this will be able to answer anything on your opponent's side of the field, whether it's a Rush Shanks, for instance, if you're going against a Shanks variant, whether it's a Big Mom, whatever it may be. If it has 12,000 power, you can use your leader ability and then play this down and then KO that. So anything in the game is now in range other than Gold D. Roger, of course. Then I'm running 4 of the 3 cost Shiraya. This is a blocker that is very useful here that says when attacking and when blocking once per turn, this character's base power becomes the same as the power of your opponent's leader until the start of your next turn. So basically, if you're able to throw this down early on, you can simply just counter out of your opponent's attacks with this block and then a 1k counter, because it matches the opponent's power at the time of the swing. So if they load up a lot of Dawn on there and they're swinging like 10, for instance, you can just block with this, Shiraya's power becomes 10, and then you just give a 1k counter and you're good to go on from there. In the 6 cost spot, we have the Douglas Bullet blocker. It says if your leader has the film type, this character gains blocker. So it's a 1k counter at worst, but at best here, you're able to play this down and have a really hefty blocker that your opponent's not going to be able to really interact with, because 6 cost blockers, there's not a lot in the game that really take care of it. Of course, like Gravity Blade, if you're playing against blue, is something to keep in mind, but otherwise, this probably is going to be sticking on the field, unless of course you use it as a block to keep alive. Running 4 of the 3 cost Karina blocker. On play, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for the turn. This is a good fodder for you to be able to toss out for the most part. Of course, you can play this down if you're wanting to trade into a body pretty early on, because you can use your leader ability, pitch a film card minus 2,000 to something, and then play this, give it another minus 2,000, and pretty much guarantee that you're able to trade into that body effectively. But I found myself more often than not just using this as a way to use my leader ability to ramp up and then play something else instead of this Karina. But that being said, doesn't mean that it's worthless or bad. I just found myself wanting to play other things instead. Then a new addition from OP09, I'm running 4 Uta, which searches out Red Hair Pirate's card. So it looks at the top 5 of your deck and then finds one Red Hair Pirate card, and then it puts the bottom on the rest of your deck. I'm running a fair amount of Red Hair Pirates overall. I think I'm running maybe like close to 20, I think, with the Rush Shanks, the KO Shanks, and then a few new additions. So you do have a lot of targets you can find with this, but your best targets with this card will be the Ben Beckman and also the Rush Shanks. Of course, you can search out the 10 cost KO Shanks as well, but I feel like if I'm looking for something with this card, more often than not, it's the new addition, which is this 10 cost Shanks. It says all of your opponent's characters have minus 1,000 power, just a static ability that stays there on both turns, and it has Rush. So that's very important as well, being able to have that Rush on that turn where you're going on 10 Dawn. Sometimes you really need that. Historically with this deck, you would mostly just have your top end be the 10 cost KO Shanks, and so you wouldn't be able to apply too much pressure thereafter. You'd swing 5 with leader and then play the 10 cost KO Shanks, but now you have the option of playing the Rush Shanks as well, which will provide immediate value for what you're trying to do. So the thing here is you now have 8 options for really strong top end, and you're very versatile in what you can do there. And then I mentioned Ben Beckman. I'm running 4 of Ben Beckman, 7 cost, 7,000 power, on play, trash up to one of your opponent's characters with the power of 6,000 or less. If you're going second, you can use your leader ability pretty early on and get yourself onto the odd curve, and so therefore you can play Ben Beckman down a little bit earlier than usual, and so that's very useful to know and have, because Ben Beckman, in my opinion, is probably one of the strongest red cards to come out in the game in quite some time, just because it is able to bypass the KO effect of a lot of characters out on the field, or non-KO effects, basically. And the fact that it's a 7,000 power body is very, very nice. Obviously a magic number there. And on top of it, it has a 1k counter, so this card kind of does it all for what you're looking to do. Then I'm running 4 Hongo. This is probably a mistake by me putting it in, but I was playtesting with it. And of course, it says you may rest this character if your leader has the red hair pirates type, give up 20 of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for the turn. Well, I don't have a red hair pirates type in my leader, so the effect there is never going to really proc. It's mostly going to just be a 2k counter. I'm sure there's a better card to put in its place, but I wanted more targets for my Uta overall, and that's the reason why it's in the deck, but I'm sure that there's other targets I could put in instead. But the sake of this video is just putting something in, and Hongo was the card that I put in at the time. So Hongo is very replaceable because the effect never will come up, and so if you're wanting to replace it with something else, by all means go for it. However, Lime Juice is a Red Hair Pirates that you can use unconditionally, because you don't have to have Red Hair Pirates in your leader type. It is an on-play up to one of your opponent's characters with the power 4,000 or less cannot activate blocker for the rest of this turn. So this will be nice to be able to bypass some little small blockers that your opponent might put up to try to prolong the game or prevent them from dying that turn. And so Lime Juice will help you get across that in that case. Then I'm running 4 of the Guild Tesoro, 5 cost, 6,000 power body. One of the things I just mentioned was that it is hard to have a decent hand size in this card game, or at least with Uta rather, not the card game in general. The card game, there's many ways to do that, but Guild Tesoro basically allows you to feel like you can pitch out some of these cards that you might want to counter out with, or maybe they were like KO'd on the field or whatever it may be. Dawn -1, if your leader has the film type, add 2 cost 4 or lower film type characters from your trash to your hand. We have a fair amount of those that we can do, that we can add back in and recur, so you can refill your hand size if that's the case, because one thing that this leader struggles with is having a decent hand size once you get to the late game of what you're trying to do. So overall, Guild Tesoro kind of helps you there. I think that I find myself not playing it too often, maybe in late game. If I've already played some of my bombs down and I'm trying to at least survive the next turn or two, Guild Tesoro helps out there. But I found myself ramping up a little bit too fast and playing something that might be like higher cost overall, like a Douglas Bullet or Ben Beckman, and then by that time I'm probably going to be on 10 Dawn, and so Guild Tesoro doesn't come up too often in the mid game. It's more so a late game piece for me to be able to get some cards back in my hand that I might need. Then I'm running 4 of the Uta blocker from Starter Deck 5. It's been quite a while since I've seen this card ran in any deck, but at the time when it came out, it was very annoying to have to deal with, because it's on block, Dawn -1, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 5 or less. So your opponent has to swing a little bit differently if they want to be able to use all of their units on the field. Otherwise, this Uta can just block and then prevent an attack from coming through, of course, at the cost of minusing Dawn, but you can just do your leader effect for that next turn and then gain that back overall. So this Uta is very useful, and it has a 1k counter and a blocker. So as you've noticed, a lot of the really good cards in this deck have 1k counter and then also do something pretty substantial for when they are played on that turn. Then for the last bit of top end that I'm running here, I'm running 2 of the Douglas Bullet, 8 cost, 10,000 power. You should be able to play this down because you're ramping up pretty quickly. Normally, when you're playing Douglas Bullet in a deck that doesn't ramp as efficiently, it feels a little awkward to play this down late because you have to wait an entire turn cycle to get the really good effect here. Of course, if you're playing it down maybe a turn or two before it's supposed to normally come down, then that really becomes more impactful. The activate main once per turn, Dawn -4, rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less, then this character gains double attack, is huge for the most part. This card is going to be, I think, your win condition against decks like Black, Yellow, Luffy, because they will try to put up a couple of Sabo blockers and be at like 0 life, and if they are able to do that, then all you do is just use the Dawn -4 ability, rest the Sabos, and then go for game. So Douglas Bullet, I really like here. I'm running it at 2, and you only really need 1 for the game, and if you have the other one in hand, you can always just pitch it for your leader ability. But Douglas Bullet is great because on 8 you can play this down, and then on 10 play a Shanks, and then go all in with both of these characters. And then finally, to wrap it up, I'm running 4 Buena Fiesta. This is a 2K counter that also acts as a searcher, and it looks for film-type cards. Most of the deck is film-type cards. I believe I'm running a total of 26 film types, so we're looking at 26 film, 24 red hair pirates. Actually, we might be even running more film overall. I haven't counted. I'm just kind of like guessing off the top of my head because I'm looking at this Uta that is a red hair pirate searcher. This is also a film card, so this could search out the Uta, and then the Uta can search out a Shanks. So that's something you can do there, but this is a 2K counter that has great utility because you're able to use it as a searcher. It's kind of hard here because like we are wanting to hold on to our 2Ks for the most part, because outside of Buena Fiesta, we're running 8 more 2K. So we are running 12 in total. So I guess it's okay to kind of like drop one down because you have more that you can get back. And of course, if this goes to the trash or the grave, you can use your Guild to Sorrow 5 cost to get it back. So there's always options there, but of course, if it is a turn 1 play and you have this in your hand, you should usually always be playing this down just to be able to get something to fill out your curve for later. Overall, I feel like this deck has a lot of great synergy between the red hair pirates and also the film, and being able to ramp up to your 10 Dawn very fast with your leader ability, and then being able to play down these huge bombs can throw a lot of opponents off. I also really like the fact that you don't have to have any additional cards to be able to KO pretty much anything in the game with the KO Shanks here. You just have to use your leader ability, pitch a card, and then play this down and KO pretty much anything, which is nice because in other decks you usually have to establish something else earlier, like maybe like a Gordon, or it could be like a Building Snake, and then the following turn play this out. So that's always really nice to not have to have that additional step to do that. Overall, I would say that this deck is semi-competitive. I wouldn't say it's necessarily an amazing deck overall because of the fact that it is a 4-life leader and you are running low on hand size, and that can be very detrimental to a lot of decks, especially this one. However, I do think that this deck is worth piloting and taking to locals and seeing if it does well, because I think that this deck has a lot of potential overall. When I mentioned it at the beginning of this meta, this is one that I was trying to mess around with a little bit, and I guess this is kind of where I landed overall. In the meantime, I'm going to take it into the sim and see how it does. All right, going against Red-Green Chopper, this is a leader that we don't see too often. However, it is very aggressive, and against decks like me, it can really, I think, carry games away because of the fact that they can fill their board pretty quickly here. We start off with an Uta Searcher going first, which is probably our best play going forward, and we were able to find at least a 2K here, so that's nice. And then this turn could be a little bit awkward because they left one up, which usually means that they have like the counter event come up and, or shut up and come with me, where they're able to cheat out a body, but hopefully they don't play this down. So we're going to swing 5, use our leader effect to ramp up 1. We're just going to get rid of this KO Shanks because honestly, it doesn't really do much in this matchup overall because of the fact that a lot of their bodies are small. So that can be, by the time we're playing this down, not very good overall. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and play out the Buena Fiesta, get out a Karina just to replace something so that we can pitch the next turn. I didn't want to swing with the Uta there because the fact that they took the 1 with my leader ability, and if I went and swung with the Uta, there's a chance that they still have that counter event that they might want to play out, and I don't want to give them that opportunity. This turn, they'll probably play out the 3-cost Chopper, which will be able to cheat out a body, which is very much the powerful turn for them, at least, the best turn that they can do. Yep, 3-cost Chopper, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and then play 1 animal with a power of 4,000 or less as rested. So very good for them, being able to have that on curve. This is what we don't want to see because we can't really answer this that effectively, of course. And they're able to play out a Momu, which is it's kind of just a vanilla there, and that's fine because they can just use their leader ability to give it a Rested Dawn, and it can swing in for 5, which is very annoying, of course. So I kind of want to get rid of this card if we can. I think this turn, we have a couple of options here. We can swing 5 into the Momu and use our leader ability to ramp up 1, and then look to play maybe Douglas Bullet the following turn. So let's go ahead and do that, pitch the Karina. Go 5-2. There's also a world where we go like 5-5, like 5 to their leader, -2 to the Momu, and then swing Uta into it. But if we do that, there's a pretty good chance that they just counter out and then have 2 swings the next turn from bodies on the field that we don't really want that to happen, of course. So That's the reason why we're swinging leader into this, just to get it off the field. And then we can go ahead and establish the Douglas Bullet blocker. And that's a really, like I said, hefty blocker to be able to play down. And I don't think there's going to be a way for them to really get past it. I don't think they want to put a lot of Dawn on something. So likely one attack will go through and then we can block the other one. I don't mind going down to 2 life at this point in the game. They do have a fair amount of cards in hand. They're looking at 8 in hand total, which can be a little bit scary. They just swing 5 with their chopper, and I think this is probably just a free block here, because like if they decide to load a lot of Dawn into the Douglas Bullet, that's fine. It did its job, I think. So they're able to actually cheat out this Odyssey chopper, which will restand itself at the end of the turn, which is a really good card. Honestly, one of the best cards for this chopper to come out this set, at least. Then they use their law to restand the chopper and then get more value. God, they're doing it. They're doing the thing here. Get the hiking bear out, and I don't know what we want to do this next turn. I might want to just swing... I don't know. I think we'll take this one, though. I think we'll swing 6 into lead. There's no real reason for me to ramp, to be honest. I could go 5, use my leader ability minus the law so that they don't have like a free block, play out an Uta Searcher, play out the Douglas Bullet, but honestly, I think I just want to swing 6 because I want to hold on to as much counter as possible. So let's swing 6 into lead. They'll probably block this and give me a 1k, and that's fine. It's another card out of hand, I suppose. They might also just take it. Who knows? Maybe they're looking for some answers here. But regardless, our turn here is pretty simple. We just swing 6. I think we keep our Douglas Bullet standing because this next attack, they're going to probably try to push for game here, especially seeing that I have a Douglas Bullet down. And then the next turn, depending on like if we survive, of course, we can go really hard here and play out a 10-cost Rush Shanks. So they play Cloven Hoof, which give up to 3 of your characters plus 1,000 power for the turn, then give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for the turn. Honestly, really solid card here for 2 Dawn. That is great value overall. They'll also be able to use their leader ability to put some Dawn on these characters. Looks like they are about to, oh my gosh, a second Cloven Hoof. This is, yeah, we're in some trouble here, of course. That means our Douglas Bullet cannot freely block, which is quite the annoyance here because I was hoping to at least block one of these attacks this turn to be able to prevent them having lethal. There's a very good chance that they might have lethal overall. Of course, they're only able to have 4 more Dawn to play with here. That could be, I guess, a good thing for us because they won't be able to really stack a lot of Dawn on elsewhere. But I really need this Douglas Bullet to stay alive for this next turn, because what I'm going to need to do here is play out the 10-cost Shanks and go 5 lead, 7 Douglas Bullet blocker, 10 double attack Douglas Bullet, 8 cost, and then swing in with my Rush Shanks to close out the game. If we're able to get there, of course. So we need to survive this turn. They're going to be throwing a lot at us. Let's see if we can survive. It's all about the math at this point. We have 2, 7, 8, 9... Our counter's not looking good. But if they're going to swing 5 with this Correja, then I'm just going to give them a 1k. Very easy here. Not a problem. Let's see what they do after this. Hopefully, I mean, one of them is a 7 from the Odyssey Chopper. I think we just take this 7, see what we get from life. Okay, another 1k. That's pretty good for us. Not a problem. They have maybe another 7 from the 3-cost Chopper. They could do a lot of 7s, actually. That is kind of scary. Okay, 7 from Hiking Bear. I think we take this one and just see what our last life is. And if we need to use the Douglas Bullet as a blocker, then we use it, I suppose. 7 from the 3-cost Chopper. Okay, we will go and give him a 2 and a 1. Pretty good for us. Let's see here. Yeah, give a 2 and a 1, and then the following they'll do maybe do 7 with lead. And we have enough to counter out of a 7 with lead. We just have to hope that they don't swing with this law here. Okay, we are able to counter out and stay alive. I feel like maybe they should swing with the law, but also I'm not sure. Maybe they don't want to. But the fact that they didn't is good for us because now we can play down this 10-cost Shanks, use the Douglas Bullet to rest the law, and then swing 5, swing 7, 10, 12. One of the 10 has double attack as well, which is very nice, of course. We need this Douglas Bullet, the 7 cost or the 6 cost to connect for us to pretty much not guarantee that we win, but okay, it connected. We have a chance. We've got a shot here. 10,000 double attack. Let's see if it goes through. Oh, it connected. Will the 12 go through? They have a lot of cards. Oh my gosh, and most of them were bricks. Okay, we got lucky there, of course. The fact that they had a lot of aggression is very good for them. Of course, not very good for us, but we got a little bit lucky in the fact that we had just enough counter to survive. All right, going against Shanks here. I think that this is a decent matchup for us. They do get to go first. They get to choose here, which is fine. Either way, I don't really think matters too much for us. But I think the reason why this is a good matchup for us overall is because we are able to basically do what they want to do, but a little bit faster. Being 4 life definitely sucks, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world here. We're going to swing 6 and pitch the Douglas Bullet because I'm going to want to play the Ben Beckman. Although I feel like maybe keeping the Douglas Bullet could have been a good idea as well, but I feel like we're just going to go Ben Beckman and then use leader ability and then be on our 10 Dawn turn the following turn. So this one, they swing 6, and we're just going to block, give them a 1k. And Lucky Roo is unlucky here because we were able to trash it with our Ben Beckman. We're going to pitch the Karina, ramp up 1, so the next turn we will be on 10 and play either of our Shanks depending on what they throw down. And I think since they use their leader ability on the leader, we're just going to swing 5 with the Shariah and ask for a counter. I think if you can ask for counter from Shanks as much as possible, please do so, because that's one of those things where the more comfortable Shanks gets by the time that they're at 10 Dawn, the worse it is for you. So make sure that you're trying to ask for counter depending on what you do here. They go 5 at lead, which may mean that we're going to play a Ben Beckman of their own. They're on 7, and they could just trash the Shariah, which, yep, they do. We're going to swing 5 at lead. This will be a leader ability more than likely. Yep. 7 to 5. This could be a 2 and a 1, or they might just take it. Okay, they give us a 2 and a 1 here. And I'm feeling like I want to play out the KO Shanks. Might be a little bit preemptive there, but I just want to clear their board the best as possible. And then this following turn, when they're going to be on probably, what, 9 Dawn here? Yeah, they're on 9 Dawn. They'll probably play out a Rayleigh is probably their best bet. They could also play out a Dragon, and that would really hurt. But Rayleigh's fine, because Rayleigh won't KO anything on my side of the field. I'm going to go ahead and counter out of this one because the next turn will likely be a rush Shanks from them, and I don't want to be at 1 if that's the case. So 5 to 5, they use leader ability. We'll go another 5 to 5 because it's shrunk down from the Rayleigh. They will counter out with a 2k. 9 will likely connect, and this 12 will more than likely connect as well. And that will put them at 2. This turn, if they decide to try to push me to 0, that's totally fine here. But I imagine that they might want to try to clear the board to the best of their ability. We're going to go ahead and counter out of this one because if this one connects, then they can really just do a lot of damage with the Rayleigh here. But this might prevent them from trying to push me to 0 because I think that they're trying to at least calculate if they can go for board here. That's fine. They go 7 to 6. I'm going to give them a counter because I don't want them to swing their Shanks into one of my other Shanks, although it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Oh, and we got really lucky here. Oh my gosh. I think we swing 5 first with our leader, use the leader ability to minus the rush Shanks by 2,000. Pitching an Uta, which we don't need. We could pitch a Shariah as well, but it doesn't really matter. I think Utas or Shariah, both very useful overall. And we will use the KO Shanks to get rid of their rush Shanks, and then we're going to use one of our other Shanks to swing into the Rayleigh and pretty much guarantee that it's gone, and then swing 12 into 5, connecting, of course. And then at this point, it's looking really grim for Shanks because we have 3 huge bodies that they are not going to be able to counter out of. If I were them, I don't know how you get out of this one, to be quite honest. Maybe block her up and then hope for the best, but I don't think that's going to be the case. They go 6 to 5. Of course, we're going to take that one because we can't counter out. And, ooh, I think they're pushing lethal here. Okay. So they're going to play out a Zoro. The Zoro shrunk down by our 10 cost rush Shanks. We're just going to give him a 2k just to be safe here because this last card could be Kid and Killer, but it's not. It's another Zoro here. So yeah, they were trying to push lethal, and we have the counter, but we're just going to let them get us to 0. And of course, the crackback is not enough for them to counter out of. So yeah, as I mentioned, you're just trying to do the same thing that Shanks is doing, playing big bodies, but you're able to do it a turn or 2 faster than they can. Black Purple Luffy is going to be an interesting one here because I think that they also ramp really fast. So we're both able to play our big bosses at roughly the same time. So we'll see who can get more momentum first though. Buena Fiesta, not really finding too much here. We'll grab the Karina rather, and then pass the turn. I'll hold on to the other Buena Fiesta because I think that the hand is okay, and I'd rather just hold on to one extra 2k if that's the case. And they don't have the Zoro on 3, which is really good for us because that means they can't ramp up efficiently here. So we're going to swing, I think 5, use our leader ability to pitch out the Karina because they know we have it. There's no use for it really. And we'll use the Uta Searcher. Ben Beckman is the only target, and it's a good target to have. And then we'll be able to play out the Shiraya this next turn and see what they do. On 5, they don't have too much that they can really do. The Sanji is not going to be able to KO anything because Sanji is only a 5 cost. They needed to put 1 Dawn under the Luffy, which is why having Zoro early is very important for Black Purple Luffy. We are able to ramp a little bit faster than them. So we'll swing 5. Because the Shiraya will be able to swing as well, we're going to swing with it. And then we're going to be able to play out this Ben Beckman because we're on 7 Dawn already and trash the Sanji and pass the turn. So looking pretty good here. Our board is very, not necessarily menacing, but it's starting to get to a point where they might feel a little bit of pressure here, especially with this Ben Beckman looming over them. They are able to grab out grab out a blocker Sanji, 2k Sanji here. Pretty solid. This turn they have 6 Dawn. They could play out the KO Sanji this turn by putting a Dawn under their leader and then swinging 6 at me and then playing out the KO Sanji. Looks like that's what they're doing. Good thing we swung with the Shiraya overall. Got some value out of him. We're going to counter out because I don't want to go down to 1 against Black Purple Luffy. That's a really scary place for us to be at, to be quite honest. So let's go 5 at lead. No need to use our leader ability here. We'll go 7 at lead. This might connect. And then we can play out a Rush Shanks and really put the pressure on them, get them down to 0 here. You could have done a KO Shanks as well, but the thing is, like, we want to hold on to that if they do play out like a Moria or if they play out like a 9-cost Luffy. But honestly, we don't really even need it at this point because we've already put a lot of pressure on them. They're at 0, and they kind of have to push for game here. They're not going to be at, 10 Dawn, so we don't have to worry about Rush or Time Walk Luffy, rather. The Sanji's pretty good, though. Considering we only have 2 1Ks in our hand, I think we'll be okay depending on how they swing. We just need to counter out of one of these swings. But it is a little bit dicey here because of the fact that we don't have a lot of counter in hand overall. So yeah, they swing 6 here, and thankfully they swing 6 because we are able to just counter out of it, and we should, of course, with 2 1Ks. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see what our life has. But I mean, I feel like that's always the right move here. Yeah, no counter. No counter from life. Yeah, feeling good. Feeling good that we counter out of that one. They'll swing 5 here, of course, and we wouldn't be able to counter out of it even if we could. And they don't have any other way, really, to be able to lethal us, if that's the case. Wow. The last 2 life were just duds. I'm glad we countered out of one of those. We'll just swing a big 22 at them. They have 2 up, which means they probably have 2 Gum Gum Giants. If they're able to counter out of this 22, I will be impressed. Not really surprised, but I'll be impressed because, I mean, Gum Gum Giant is just an insane card. There's one of them, and then we'll be able to follow up with a 5 and a 7, which will probably put us over the finish line here. So counter out with 1, pitching a dead card, another Gum Gum Giant, puts them up to 13, pitching another dead card, drawing 2 more, 15, 17, 19, 21. Do they have another 2K? This is insane. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we got there with just the Shanks. The rest of their hand was pretty dead, but yeah, that's Gum Gum Giant's just so darn good. Black Yellow Luffy, we're going to want to try to mulligan for a Douglas Bullet because I feel like that's going to be our win condition here. Being able to rest their blockers when they do block her up is very important here. And we have it in our opening hand, so we're going to keep this. They decided to go second because, well, that's their best curve. We don't really have anything, unfortunately, to do. And it's kind of awkward because we want to be able to ramp up. And in order to ramp up, we have to swing. So I guess it means we're going to have to swing into life. It is what it is. But that being said, if we do get them down to a low life total, then we can put the Douglas Bullet on the field and feel pretty comfortable having that there. It's going to be hard for them to remove. They'll have to have like a Raigo, of course, to be able to get rid of it. They go Flampe, opening turn. Very strong from them. This next turn, I will swing at them for 7 and put them down to 2 life. We'll see, though. We'll see what we get. Or, sorry, swing into 8, rather. My math is very off. Okay, we'll swing into 7. We drew into an Uta. It was always right all along. We'll grab a Rush Shanks, which is a very good card in this matchup. And we'll just swing 7, use our leader ability, pitch one of the Utas, because they can easily KO it with the Egghead Luffy, because it's a 4 cost. And I feel like I shouldn't be waiting here this long. They probably... I don't know why they're countering out of this. I guess maybe they're a little bit scared of what I could be throwing down. Maybe a Law that rips a card from hand, but I'm not running that. I feel like they probably should have just taken that one, of course. As Black Yellow Luffy, you definitely want to try to take life unless, of course, you're really scared about maybe not being able to defend or maybe like a pudding or whatever it may be. So the 2-1 there, maybe a little bit questionable, but I don't know. I don't play enough Black Yellow Luffy for me to really be like, yeah, that was a good or bad play. 5 to lead, we'll take it. I just want to see what else I can get from our hand. Swinging the Flampe here because they don't have anything else is okay, I suppose. I might have swung with the Garp and asked for a 2K. Either way, we would have been able to defend this. This will give us a target to swing into, and I guess we don't really need to ramp up anymore. We could, I guess, pitch the other Douglas Bullet, but we're on the even curve now, so we can just play out the 6-cost blocker Douglas Bullet, and then the next turn, play out the 8-cost Douglas Bullet. Ramping up doesn't really do much for us overall. It just pitches a card from hand, which we want to keep a healthy hand size. Even if some of the cards are like counterless, it's fine to keep a healthy hand size to kind of bluff a little bit. Maybe your opponent miscalculates on how much counter you might have because you had more cards in hand. So we're not going to pitch the 8-cost Douglas Bullet, even though we don't really have time to play 2 of them. They play out the 5-cost Fist Luffy, Punch Luffy, I don't know what you really call it. There's different ways to call it, I suppose, which is one of their strongest cards that they can play. It really gets their leader ability closer to getting online. 6 into lead, we'll just easily block this with our blocker, of course. And then this next turn, I don't really need to do anything. I'm just going to play out the Douglas Bullet and pass. I'm not going to swing into them. I'm not going to try to get cards out of hand. I think this next turn is going to be really difficult for them to navigate, rather, because of the fact that this Douglas Bullet is on the field. So we'll see what they do. If I were them, I probably would use their Luffy ability because I don't really want to be taking 2 in 1 hit with the Douglas Bullet overall, because I'm going to be swinging with the Douglas Bullet, of course, first, if that's the case. And they do play out a Sabo, so we're just going to rest the Sabo with our Douglas Bullet ability after we play down the 10-cost Shanks. And we can really push for game this next turn. But like I said, if I'm them, I probably would use my Luffy ability to rip the top life, and then draw a card, and then, of course, swing 8 with it, and maybe swing 8 with my leader. Put some pressure on me, which I think is probably the best bet overall. It doesn't really matter if they do this with their leader or with the Fist Luffy, or if I'm using the Douglas Bullet to do it. I think that it's fine to do what they just did. Because either way, Douglas Bullet will push them to 0. So what's the difference between me with a Douglas Bullet with double attack hitting 1 life or 2 life? I feel like it's just more value for them to go ahead and just get that card now. Of course, there's an 8 coming from lead, and I think we can just block with the blocker and then give him a 2K. We're going to need this Douglas Bullet to really push as well. The blocker, of course. We're going to throw down the Shanks and then use the Douglas Bullet ability to rest the Garp and the Sabo. Just to get rid of the Garp, we'll swing Uta into it. Doesn't really matter, to be honest. And we're going to swing 5 into lead. They'll likely give us a card here. And then we'll swing 7 into lead. That one, they should definitely counter out if they can. And then 10 will be very difficult for them to counter out. Here, they have to give us a 2 and a 1. If they don't, then they're definitely going to lose the game. 2 and a 1. Okay. And we'll go 10 to lead. This one will likely connect. Who knows? This is the way that you have to beat Luffy, is you kind of have to really pressure them before they start using their leader ability, so that they're at a 5,000 power leader, as opposed to them being at 9,000 power. So either way, though, Douglas Bullet is very strong for this reason, being able to rest their Sabos. And we'll go 12 at lead. Either they counter out and give us a lot of cards and be down to 1 or 2 cards in hand, or they just lose here. So I feel like they're probably just going to lose here, though. I feel like that they never have enough counter for a 12. It's just too much. They did not. Okay, so they had enough for 10, which was unfortunate for them, but that's how you kind of have to play it. You have to have the Douglas Bullet for this matchup, I think, to be able to rest the Sabo down. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to break through. Green Purple Doflamingo is a leader that I feel like is going to get stronger in the next set, and it's okay this set. I don't think it's awful, but it will be a good test to kind of see, you know, what middle of the road deck is better here, Uta or Green Purple Doflamingo. Anyway, we start off with an Uta search to be able to grab the Rush Shanks. Very good here. We don't really have any way to ramp up, so we're going to go ahead and pitch the KO Shanks. Probably not the best idea here, because this is actually a really good card for this matchup. It can answer pretty much anything that they throw down. But we'll swing 5 into lead. They counter out. We'll swing 5 into lead as well with our Uta. And they might counter out on this one. It seems like they're thinking about it. I don't know if I would counter out if I were them. I don't want to go down to 4 this early on in hand size. Looking that like they are running the 7-cost Sanji, one of the better cards to come out of OP09, where it's able to rush and rest a unit. So good to see that in this deck list, of course. I feel like it makes sense because this leader likes to rest things and then keep those things suspended. Very nice. So 5 into 2, I'm going to let it go. Uta really did his job there. Here, I'm going to go ahead and just play out probably the Hongo or the Lime Juice, just to have a body on the field. We don't really have a good play here, to be quite honest. We can't ramp up. This is a really awkward turn. We cannot ramp up, and we don't really have anything that's like very threatening to throw down. So I'm just going to swing 8, see if they take it. They might just give us a counter event, pretty easy counter event if they have it. Then we'll play out the Hongo. Hongo does not get the ability off because of the fact that I am not a Red Hair Pirate as my leader. So, you know, it's a 2K or it's a body to swing with. Who knows? We go 6 and a 5. We'll take this one. And we can play out the Ben Beckman this next turn and trash the Queen. Very, very good here to have, of course. The Queen able to draw 2, trash 1. Very strong on their part. Trashing a 10-cost Doflamingo. That's kind of terrifying. That, to me, signals that they have another one or maybe 2 more. But, of course, I trashed my 10-cost Shanks, so maybe they're like, oh, wow, he has a lot. So, okay, we swing 6, they counter out. They're trying to keep around 2, I suppose, which is pretty solid for them. This next turn, we're going to be on 10, and we can probably play down the 10-cost Rush Shanks, depending on what they play here. We also have a couple of other options as well. We have the blocker Douglas Bullet to play out if we want to go more of a defensive route. I feel like we just really need to put the push like the pedal to the metal here and kind of push them down to 0 before they really hit the 10 Dawn turn. I think I want to take this one. Why not? There's no reason not to. Ooh, they play out a Diamante here. There's a couple of options. We are on 10, so maybe I just want to get rid of the Diamante guaranteed. I feel like I'm going to play out the Ben Beckman, just get rid of it. Swing 5 into lead. They leave 2 up, and then one of them is a spider web, so they'll probably restand their baby 5. So we're just going to swing it face, pressure face. Swing 5 into lead. I'm going to swing 6 with the Hongo, and then 7 with the Ben Beckman. I think that's probably an okay play here. I mean, the 10-cost Shanks would have been fine as well, but I just really wanted to get that blocker off the field. I feel like he was going to block with it and then restand it, kind of be an annoyance, so probably best that we just get rid of it altogether. Noro Beam Sword. Okay, so they minus to rest one of my characters. So I can't swing with the Ben Beckman. Very annoying here. But the good news here is that they are not going to be on 10 Dawn regardless. So we don't have to worry about the 10-cost Doflamingo coming down and resting or suspending the Ben Beckman. We have another turn at least before that happens, which is good for us. Unless, of course, they have more minusing effects, which if that's the case, then we're definitely safe to play out the 10-cost Shanks. But even then, I might want to just go and play out the Douglas Bullet. Who knows? It depends on what they play out this turn. I think the obvious answer here is search with the baby 5, see what you get with the baby 5, and then make your plays from there. 8 Dawn doesn't allow them to do too much, though, of course. Okay, so they search with the baby 5. They got us Sugar, and if they play the Sugar down this turn, that's going to be kind of a hindrance because of the fact that whatever I play down will get rested, and then they can stun it with the 10-cost Doflamingo the following turn. Kind of annoying. They go 8 into 3. I guess it's fine. We'll just let it go. Let's swing 7 into lead and see what they do here. I'm kind of worried about another Noro beam sword resting my Ben Beckman. That's kind of a nuisance. And I don't really want to play any of my big drops, my 10 drop or my 8 drop, because they just get instantly rested. Okay, so another beam sword. Of course, I'm resting my Ben Beckman. Very annoying. We'll play out the Shariah to bait out the sugar to rest. Or not bait it, just force it to rest. We'll swing 5 into the sugar. And then what we'll do is we'll play out the Douglas Bullet blocker, because we have 6 left. And then pass the turn. Here, if they want to use... Well, they can't even use it. They're going to be on 9 Dawn now. So they don't really have too many options. They could play out like a Shanks if they're running it. They could play out the Sanji rush unit if they're running it. They could play out Cody Jones if they have it. Yeah, they didn't really have too much that turn because they were minusing their Dawn too much every turn. They weren't able to get the 10 Dawn turn overall. If they were at 10 this next turn, this could have been pretty annoying for us to have to deal with. But because they used the Beam Sword 2 turns in a row, and then they also used Queen, they're like minusing Dawn a little bit too much. Yeah, it is what it is. Going against Nami, I feel like this deck is pretty slow, so Nami will likely have the advantage against me because of the fact I can't really establish multiple bodies a turn. But I do like this hand quite a lot because of the fact that I have a couple of rush units late game, which will be very annoying for them to have to deal with. Let's go ahead and swing 6 into their lead, use my leader ability. The KO Shanks isn't really useful against them, so I think it's fine pitching it. We'll play out a Shariah. I just don't want to be cheesed by like a random Rush Usopp. I've noticed a lot more Namis have been putting 1 or 2 copies of Rush Usopp in, so we'll keep the Shariah on the field just to be safe for that reason. This next turn, I feel like we could probably just maybe swing 7 lead and then maybe swing really big with the Shariah. Kind of bait something out for the 2 Dawn that they have up. Do I need to use my leader ability? I don't think I do. Actually, I probably should have. No, I think it's fine. I think what I want to do here is like keeping like the Dawn that I have. I'll be at 9 next turn, but I want to play out my Douglas Bullet. I think Douglas Bullet's probably pretty solid against Nami. As you can see, they have Marguerite, and Marguerite will be an annoyance. So we want to be able to rest the Marguerite down and then swing in with our Douglas Bullet into life. So pitching the only film card I had in hand would not be allowing us to do that. And if we just played 10 cost Shanks the next turn, they could just easily block it. So I feel like holding on to the bullet there is fine. Like I said, we'll swing a huge number into the Shariah, or with the Shariah. They just take it. That's fine. I mean, they could have blocked. Maybe they forgot they have a blocker on the field. Do get a good trigger there, being able to draw 2 trash 1. Unlucky for us. And I imagine as Nami, you'll probably just swing 5 into the Shariah, and I'll just give him a 2k here. And then keep the Shariah probably standing the rest of the game, just to be safe. Double Marguerite here. Love to see it because we can rest both of these with the Douglas Bullet. Depending on what else they play, okay, 5 and 5, we're going to, of course, counter out. We'll leave 4 up here. I think that this next turn, we just swing 6 with our lead, see if they give us anything, and then play out the Douglas Bullet, and then pass. And then I think, depending on what they do, depending on how they play, oh my god, another Rush Shanks. We have too many of these now. Depending on what they do, of course, we might not swing. We might just like build up the board and then do like a couple of big swings after we've established another couple of bodies. But like I said, Uta's really slow against Nami, so that could be a problem. We're going to have to kind of play it by ear and see how it goes. 6 and a 5, though, is probably very easy for them to counter out of. White Snake and 2k. Okay, cool. That's fine with us. And we will pass with the Douglas Bullet. This is really scary for them because I can just rest their blockers and then go double attack. So they're going to have to leave up a lot of Dawn, of course, this next turn. Kaya. Ooh, this could be a little bit interesting here. They might be able to bounce the Kaya back to hand. So we have to be careful of that. We'll go ahead and play out the Shanks. And honestly, I think I'm just going to pass the turn because if I use my Douglas Bullet ability this turn, I won't be able to play another Shanks the next turn. And that would really suck, being a little bit behind if that's the case. So we'll just establish the Shanks, pass the turn. They just pass. And so we are lucky that we drew into this KO Shanks because we can just get rid of the Kaya and then pass the turn. I think next turn we can play out the Rush Shanks and just go all in this next turn, of course. Another Kaya, unlucky for us because I feel like they're probably going to bounce it back to hand. We were able to at least KO the first one with the Shanks, but now that there's a second one, I'm feeling like they have, what is it called, Snake Dance? We'll find out. We'll play out the Shanks, rest these two Marguerites. I'm going to go ahead and swing into one of them with my leader because swinging 5 into Nami is not necessarily a smart idea, in my opinion. We'll see what they do. We will see what they do. Snake Dance. Okay, Snake Dance to go ahead and just bounce the Kaya back. I don't know if Snake Dancing there makes the most sense. They probably should have held on to it for when I swing double attack at face. Although I imagine if they're using it right now or right there, they probably have enough to counter out of this one. Yeah, if I swung 5 into face, yeah, Snake Dance would have just easily answered that. Then they would have been able to Snake Dance, bounce the Kaya back, and then just pitch one card. So at least they get out of the double attack here, which is fine. I think we swing the Shiraya because the leader is at 6. I think we swing Shiraya, just a Marguerite. We have enough counter to probably survive a big Usopp attack if they decide to play Usopp, if they're even running it. Let's go ahead and swing the Shiraya into the Marguerite, get it off the field, so we don't have to worry about the blockers the following turn as well. Pitching a Kaya, okay. They might have more in hand. That's probably the case if they're getting rid of one of them. And then we'll just swing 12. A bunch of 12s into face. This will be probably very difficult for them to counter out of. Yep, they take the first one. A trigger of some sort. All these lives have been like triggers. Well, no, that's not true. I think the first one was not, at least. Maybe the second one wasn't either. It definitely is a trigger. I don't know what they're like holding onto it for, though. It might be one of the triggers that bounces a character or something. Gavel. Okay, so it's a white snake. Look at the top 5 and then place them in any order at the top or bottom of your deck. That's not bad. Maybe they're trying to set up for getting to lethal, but I gotta be honest, we're in a really commanding position right now. The fact that we have all of these big bodies, they're at 2 life, and they're probably about halfway through their deck right now. So that's really good for us. Usually Nami's, when you know it's over, is because like they're at 5 life, they have 25 cards left in the deck, you haven't really made a dent or anything. So that's, at least I feel confident that we can probably push for lethal this next turn. 12 into 6. Take. No trigger. Lucky for us. And 12 into 6. They might just take this one as well. Who knows? Or at this point, they might have gotten enough counter out of the life to be able to counter out of this attack. Okay, so Love Beam, not able to draw, thankfully. And then another Love Beam, not able to draw because they are not at 3 or less in hand. So that's 2 Love Beams that they got out of the way there. 2 less we have to worry about this next turn. They go Kaya. They have used their Kayas to pitch Impel down All-Stars, which has been probably the best use of Kayas I've seen in, a while. Of course, that's like the best optimal Kaya is when you can pitch out All-Stars, but I think they've pitched out 3 so far with the Kayas that they've played out. We'll swing 12 into 5. This is a pretty hefty attack. They have to give us, okay, they give us a Gavel, and they have to give us another +4. And if they do that, then I'm probably going to swing 13 with one of the Shanks so that it's even more difficult for them to counter out. Okay, so Love Beam. They're able to do it. Yep, like I said, 13 this next swing will probably be very hard for them to counter out of, especially with 3 cards in hand. It will likely connect, and if this one connects, then I think we just go all in with this next Shanks and feel comfortable enough to then swing 5 with the leader, 5 with Shiraya, and then 10 with Douglas Bullet to finish it up. 12 left in the deck. Not very close, of course, unless they just have like Gavel after Gavel, which even then I don't think it gets there. So yeah, I think looking pretty good. Down to 10 cards left in the deck, +4. What else do they have? Boa, Kaya. That'll do it. Yep. Didn't have enough. We just put a lot of pressure on, and I think it was fine for us to hold back for a turn or two with the Douglas Bullet on the field. Very threatening for them, and we were able to overpower them with enough of the 10-cost Shanks. Well, I feel like this deck actually has some legs overall. I wouldn't say it's quite as strong as like Red Purple Kid, but I feel like Red Purple, the color combination in general, is just strong right now. You have Red Purple Luffy, Red Purple Kid, Red Purple Uta, Red Purple Lost. I'm just kidding, rest in peace, of course. But I think that overall, these Red Purple leaders definitely have a lot of potential to probably take people by surprise with just the overall power that they've gotten in the past set or two. I would say, like I said in the beginning of the video, probably overall the deck list is fine. Maybe switch out the Hongo for something else, maybe a Film 2K, maybe a different Red Hair Pirates 2K if there is one. I'm not sure if there is one off the top of my head, but I feel like this card is probably the most useless out of all of them because it doesn't really do anything. It's just a 2K, and there's probably better 2Ks you can search out with Uta or Buena Fiesta. So that's something to consider, of course. I do really like the Douglas Bullet in this deck. I think that the wins that we got were carried off the back of this card. You only really need to be able to see one, and I think it's pretty easy to find with the Buena Fiesta, or just like naturally drawing into it is fine, of course. But if you don't see this big monstrosity of a card, you always have the other ones like the 10-cost Rush Shanks or the 10-cost KO Shanks. So overall, I really like how this deck plays out. The only downside, the only thing I wish it was a little bit better at was drawing cards overall. Guild Tesoro, probably a really strong way to do that. There's also another Guild Tesoro that will allow you to draw cards by minusing Dawn, which I didn't include in this. I think it's counterless, which is another issue here because there are some times where I just had too many bricks in hand, even though the deck is mostly counters. As you saw in one of the games where I think it was Black Purple Luffy, it was just like too close, way too close for comfort there. But otherwise, I think this deck is pretty solid. I would say that it's probably a pretty solid, maybe B tier deck, maybe C tier deck. I don't know. It's really good overall. I'm impressed with how it plays, and I hope more people take a chance with it and see how it does as sets go on. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.